Hey friends, it's Becca here from Beccas by l.a.b. Homestead. So we've been making Bokashi and we tried out that farm cheese for the first time and some things could have maybe gone better, but anywho, I'm going to show you how it came out. And I've got gloves on because this stuff is like, if you like stinky cheese, this is some stinky cheese. So here's our cheese. It smells... Oh, I took a bite this morning. It's not my type of cheese. I actually am going to thank all of the artisan cheesemakers out there because it is a craft that I probably will not master. I do make and have made some nut cheeses that were fermented and they came out wonderful. But this is the byproduct of making Bokashi. So I did a little video yesterday, kind of our whole process, how you make the rice water, you ferment it. So something I probably should have done just in order to try to make this cheese maybe not be as stinky, maybe not let the rice water ferment as long, and also strain off, there's like this yeasty film on top, probably to strain that yeasty film off, and then when you add your room temperature full fat whole milk, you might get a better product. I was just tired, we're busy. So anywho, I think that might have made a difference. Also, our milk took overnight, probably about 12 hours to get it to room temperature because our house was kind of cooler. It was in the evening when we tried to do this. So it took a long time for our milk to come to room temperature. So separately, we had to let our whole milk sit out overnight, to kind of kept checking on it, and it just wasn't, it was still really, really cold. And so you want it room temperature when you add it to your fermented rice water. So we did the fermented rice water, and that was a couple of days, depending how long it takes, how warm it is in your house, and things like that. I guess it could take anywhere from 2 to 5 days. I think ours was about 3 days or so. Probably could have done it at 2. Add your milk, and then you cover it again, and you let it ferment up to about 7 days. Depending on how cold it is in your house or how warm it is. So it might ferment faster or slower depending on the temperature in your house. So we just had it in a dark room, but our house was fairly warm because it's summertime here. It's about 78 to 80 in the house, so that's pretty warm. So it did ferment the milk in 2 days for us. And what happens is that in the pictures you'll see the whey and the curds separate. So the curds float to the top, and the whey is at the bottom, and it's kind of this clearish, yellowy kind of liquid, depending on how grass-fed or whatever, how much fat is in your whole milk. And so then what we did is we took our curds out, and I did rinse them, but I don't think that was enough, and I had scraped off the yeasty top to it, but I think there was just too much when it fermented. So that's what I did, is you saw me take my curds and I press them and squeeze them out with a potato sack cloth that you get at Walmart. There's like I think a 2-pack of them or something like that. Cheesecloth is too fine. There's too much holes in cheesecloth, so the potato sack is more like a t-shirt and makes a better squish press thing. So squished it out. And then I did a second pressing, and it was still kind of falling apart, and I watched a few videos, and they said if you heat it at a low temperature and heat your curds and stir them a little bit and then add your seasoning, like your salt or whatever you want to add to it, you can do another pressing, which is what I did, and so you get a smoother cheese. It holds together a little bit better. It's just too stinky. I don't like the flavor, so I don't think I'm going to do this again. But if somebody else does, I'd love to know in the comments. So this will go to our chickens and our dog if she wants it or likes it. We'll see if she likes a little bit of it or not. Waylon stuck some out in the garden as a deterrent, and I was like, yeah, man, I don't know what would come in our plant if he smells this stuff. So anywho, that's the cheese. And let me see. Here is, so I did 2 cups of rice water. Trying to touch it with my fingers without touching my phone and making it smell funky. I know you sense my finger. Okay. Is it working? Oh, all right. Okay. There we go. Flipping. All right, we're trying to flip it. Is it not working? Okay, not working for whatever reason. Weird. Okay, so it was a gallon of milk to 2 cups of rice water. That gave me a gallon of Bokashi. So Bokashi is also called l.a.b. It's a lactobacillus, and it's also called EM1, which is something microorganism. EM1. It's called EM1. And so I ended up getting a gallon of the Bokashi. So these are half-gallon mason jars. And I filled them halfway with the Bokashi. So I got 4 half-gallon jars filled with Bokashi. And how we're going to store this more long-term, because otherwise you could just store it in your fridge up to 6 months like this and use 1 teaspoon per gallon and use it as a fertilizer, foliar feed for your plants and things like that. You can super saturate it with molasses, so kind of like a 1-to-1 ratio at least, or brown sugar. So I had a lot of extra brown sugar on hand I wanted to use up. So I probably put about 2 pounds of brown sugar, slowly adding, and until it like almost floats on top and barely sinks down. So it's super thick, and I have a fermenting cap on top, and I'm just going to store it like that up to a year, and we'll use 1 to 2 teaspoons per gallon. So I've got 1, 2. These 2, I just put whatever I had left over for brown sugar. We're going to add some more. I ran out, because this was like 4 pounds of sugar for that, so I would need another 4 pounds of sugar. And so, yeah, so that's what we got. So this is, I just added some sugar to help keep this fermenting, and see if this flip it around. It's not working. So something you can do in your garden, and it looks like it. I heard some thunder. I'm hoping it rains. I don't know how much Waylon fertilized out here. I did the front this morning. We have our rain catchment here. So I forget how many parts it was, but he was figuring about a quart. This is 300 gallons of rainwater, or just water that we have. And he figured at least a quart of Bokashi to put in here to mix in with all of that. And then what happens is we have our drip line, and it's dripping out to the garden. So this is so weird to try and film like this. We've got it fertilizing our sweet potato patch out here. So you can add it in that way. Normally, Waylon just makes the Bokashi, and we have a 55-gallon drum here where we put scraps, waste. Now, Bokashi is different for composting. You want to compost faster, you can add Bokashi to your compost. It is a great starter, and it is also helps break things down faster. Some people will add it to like rice bran or paper and let it dry, and they use it for their human manure composting, and they use it that way. So they like kind of add it to their grains and things like that, or straw or hay or their pine shavings, and they compost stuff that way. This is just our like veg scrap. You can put fish in here. You can put meat and milk. Let's put it that way. So Bokashi lets you ferment and compost down meat and milk and fish and things like that, whereas vermicomposting is only like vegetarian stuff like greens, pasta, bland, unspicy things, where you can ferment a lot more stuff in here. And so Waylon usually adds that to our Bokashi bin, and it's a little extra earthy right now, so it needs some more. Otherwise, there's usually no smell at all. It's very deodorizing. And then he has a drain spout way down here, and we dilute it 100 to 1 part. So I don't know what that is actually. He does it, but very little of this, maybe like 1/8 of a cup to, I don't know, not even 1/8 a cup, whatever, like a tablespoon to a gallon probably is what we use as a fertilizer that way. Those are chickies. So yeah, and then I didn't add it over here yet, but we have a compost from the chickens over here in this bin, and you can add it here as well. That'll help break it down, deodorize it, and compost faster. So we need to add some to that. I know Waylon added some to our tomato plants here. And I'll show you the front. I got it greens up stuff. Like if your plants are looking a little yellow and they're needing some extra nutrition, I use our worm castings and make a tea, and I water stuff and nutrients that way as well. Ooh, it's warm. But we will water the front. So probably can't tell just yet, but I'll just show you. Can you see how the leaves are starting to get yellow? They need more feeding and nutrition. So I just did that this morning, and it'll probably take a day or so for this to green up. So I added the Bokashi here. We did our basil, our pepper plants, oregano, the rosemary. And our pepper plants are looking really good from the Bokashi. Put some pepper plants here. And pepper plants here. And I'm trying to see, I think this needs a little bit more sunshine. So I need to move this plant. And I gave some to our fruit trees this morning over here. And these are some new tomato plants that we just put in from l.a.b. And we've got, well, this one's from Tractor Supply. It's Somerset, Bobcat, and Tycoon. So they're looking good. These were just transplanted like 2 days ago, and so that should help with transplant shock and help feed them. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. Let me know how you're using Bokashi. Oh my gosh, it's so hot out here. Let me know how you guys are using Bokashi, if it's something that you're using or implementing in your gardening and urban garden, and I'd love to hear from you and see how you're using it. Have you tried making farm cheese from it? How did it come out? And have a great day. Happy gardening.